3, 2, 1. We are live. It is pairing. It's Sam here at Makers. Roy with me, and Mikhail is in the cloud. Hey, Mikhail. Good to have you with us. So the plan is to do a little bit of local support pairing. Both Roy and Nikolai are sort of looking through the installation thing, and of course, for pairing independently, then you would need to be set up with a local instance of local support.
Yes, of course.
But in at least the pairing session I'll probably do now, Mikhail, is that I guess I might do it with because I'm in the same room with Roy and Nikolai. Is I might just do screen share with them, and so you can sort of observe. Also, that we could spend the session debugging the install on each person's system. What I thought I'd just do is just do this very quick. I keep on doing this and recording it. Sometimes it disappears. But just the high-level local support setup is so. Local support is software, open source. It's Rails 3 project for the Harrow Community Network, and you'll see my screen here. But so this is the Harrow HCN, Harrow Community Network. Our customer is Voluntary Action Harrow, is a group in North West London, and they kind of came up with this concept for a sort of a specific view of a directory of all of the non-profit organisations in their part of the world, and so we've got that, and it's got various features like being able to sort by category and so on and so forth. And so this is an ongoing project. It's all completely open source. It's completely open development. You can watch any of the videos of us demonstrating this to the customer and the customer giving feedback. And we have a busy and active. I don't know Firefox to get the tracker. We've got a busy and active sequence of features that are in development and we're working on and so on and so forth. So last week with some Maker students, with Vidas and also with James W, we've gone through and added some functionality specifically related to the new volunteer Epic, which was sort of a new feature for this or Epic system. So this is a Pivotal Tracker, which we're familiar with. But so Pivotal is they're a big.
You said it was like much like what Steve got up on the wall.
Yes,
in progress.
So that's right. Right. I'll just mute you there, Mikhail. Just there was a bit of a noise in the background. Feel free to unmute yourself if you need to speak. But yes, so in the local office we've got sort of a wall of cards which has got different things. This is the same sort of thing, but online. Pivotal Labs is famous for advocating pair programming and being one of the leading consultancies for software development in the world. And they created Pivotal Tracker as their agile development system for tracking all the stuff. So we can see here, for example, these are things here which have been finished and been delivered to the production server that are now waiting for the customer to accept whether they're okay. And we've got, you can see like there's different votes associated with these stars and features, and the 3 votes indicates that everything that's going to take part. And we have kind of a velocity. And what's happening here is that we with the customer, we look at what the relative priorities are, and then based upon how fast we've been moving historically, based upon the complexity of the stories, you can see here, this is Pivotal Tracker is automatically projecting into the future when it thinks we'll have different things done. So we don't have to understand all the details for this, but what we can do is we can quickly look at the volunteer Epic, and we can see, that's something that we can see. Then these are the things that have been worked on. Marion has just, I think she's finished. Oh, go on.
Would it be okay if we just up the brightness on your screen a bit?
So this seems like a Scrum of sorts, but just super complex and has loads more stuff.
Yeah. So this is kind of. I mean, this is a. I mean, when we do the scrums, what we tend to do is we will be asking where people are on individual stories, and this is kind of our mechanism for tracking the overall project behavior, activity, and so on here. And we've got. So the things that we did here with last week with. Vidas, we added some validations for our volunteer Epic, and previously then also with Vidas and James, we'd worked on making sure that hyperlinks, so URLs and hyperlinks and emails and hyperlinks. Let me tell you what the volunteer epic is about, actually. But so, yeah, the default setup for our Harrow Community Network is just as a list of organizations, and that people can get access to edit their own information and so on and so forth. If we go to, we've moved away from Heroku and onto Ninefold, doing our cloud hosting, although it's sort of deployed to Heroku. And so we've got this new volunteers thing in here. I think I've got the data still in there, but yeah, I've got more on the staging server actually. But so the idea is to have a list of different, the individual organizations can create volunteer opportunities, and people can then browse and see, because this is like the things in there. Mm-hmm. And so we've got different ones in there. And so what we're doing at the moment, a lot of the basic stuff has been done, but we're going through and we're adding more information. And so one thing we had that we just managed to do with James and Vidas was we've had it so that any email that appears in this is the show page for the volunteer ops. The volunteer opportunity is the name of our model here, and that's like ID 4. You guys are starting with these Rails IDs. So we're basically, at the moment, we're going through the process of polishing up these different elements, ready actually, hopefully for a release on Thursday. We'll see. And yeah, I was just thinking that we might carry on what we were doing last week, which is sort of working on some little bits and pieces on here. Yeah, so let's go back to the. So what we've got here is Marianne's been working on the map, so we're going to have a map here. That's done. I think if we go and look at our pull requests, Marianne, who's based in the US, I've actually put pull requests in. This is what the James and Vidas. Marianne's done this map. She's got that staged on her server. We don't necessarily have to worry about that, but I will be having to integrate that later on during the week. Yeah, so I've got those there working, but yeah, so I'm just trying to think, in the combination with the map and with those validations, we've got, I think, most of the key things that we need. So yeah, so that one is there. That one's ready to be delivered in terms of having those links. We've done these validations, which is so the validations that we did if I open, I use RubyMine a lot, and the validations that we did with Vidas and James, no, actually just Vidas and Friday, is that we adjusted it so that it must have a title and it must have a description, which were not previously required. And if we go and pull that up, and have a look in here, yeah. So what we're also one difference between what we do with this and what happens here at Makers, or what you can see, is that all of the feature stuff has been done in RSpec that Alex has been showing you. I'll be showing you. Sorry. But so in here we've also got Cucumber as well, which you guys might not necessarily be familiar with. But let's just have a look at. We've got if we go and look at the volunteer op model. Here we go. So this, a few weeks ago you wouldn't have known what any of this was, but now. So here we go. So this is effectively, this is the line that we added with Vidas. As a result, we obviously test drove it, but so now, so the volunteer op, it's our activated model, and it's now declaring that we need to have a title and description.
Right. And
that's all working. Let me go and just grab it here and come back to volunteer validations, and I guess what find the so we've actually got the volunteer. That's the spec. So this is the spec that we wrote on Friday with Vidas, that it must have a title, must have a description. And one of the nice things from RubyMine is that you can go in and select and just run that particular test there. Overall, I'm not hugely enthusiastic about. I don't feel positive about the speed with which my tests run. I don't think that's to do with RubyMine so much. It's just we have so much stuff on that. It is a large project. I'm sure if you know better stuff. Anyway, but there. So those two are passing. Mm-hmm. What we could do, actually, it occurs to me, is immediately we could try and just do a little bit of coding here, even without you guys set up. Mikael, I'm not sure how interesting this is to you, but you can sort of see how it works. Oh, and somebody's here. Hey, somebody.
Hello, I'm just a watcher.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Hang out and see what we do here. I don't know if you guys want to try and grab screen share of me. And because I'm noticing, I think there's an additional thing that we. So no, so you want to go to the Finder and see if you can see my computer. So click on all. Yeah, found you and connect. And I did just reboot my computer, so this should hopefully it will work.
Are you Samuel now?
Yeah, I think I always have been.
Probably. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So.
Yeah, I'm just going to resize my windows.
Sure. All right. So, I mean, I guess what I should do quickly here about volunteer validations, I guess if I've already done a single pull request of this, we've got an interesting. So the feature I think that we'll work on here is one of the things that occurs to me here is that, as well as this problem of which we've sort of fixed, that you could create a volunteer opportunity with no title and description, we also have to have the volunteer opportunity needs to have an associated organization. Yeah, so we've got. I don't know if we've also covered. So I think we could at the lowest level just drive that. We might, if we may, look at. Let's get rid of that one and look at. Yeah, okay. So we've got these cucumber tests at the high level for this, and I'm just thinking in the big picture about what I'm also thinking about the pull requests. So we've got this volunteer validations there, and that's all working and it's ready to go. And we could do some more stuff and I could push it on top of that. But I'm often thinking about I want to make the pull requests, sort of smaller and tighter and sort of self-contained, so they can be pulled in independently and judged independently. And I don't want. So what I'm tempted to do just before we get started, as I might often do, is I might do something like git checkout -b and then say volunteer validations 2 even. I guess that's sort of a really dodgy title there. Validations. I'll just do 2. It's part 2. So we're now in a different branch now, and that means that can be sort of created into a separate pull request. If it was on the same branch as before, then it would have to end up being properly an existing pull request. So I think that's a good place to start. So we could have dived in there and be asking you to create volunteer opportunity specs, but maybe it's sensible to start with the high level thing here. If how do we do that? Go on. If the cucumber is not going to be too confusing. Let's go and look at it here. So this is one of the things I did on Friday with the video that unfortunately failed, was I reviewed how Cucumber works. And so this is a really good place to start, actually. The thing that I like about Cucumber, if we contrast it with the RSpec, is it reads a lot more like English. And so we've got features and scenarios, not dissimilar to what you've seen before. But so we've got here the feature that, and the things that are written next to feature and next to scenario, they're just comments like the describe or the it blocks for RSpec. So here, this is our top-level user story about this whole volunteer thing. It's like, and particularly this is the ability to create a volunteer opportunity. So as an organization admin, so I can recruit volunteers, I would like people to add a volunteer opportunity to the system. We've got these background steps here, which basically get our database set up for the purpose of the test, right? So this might be like these are the equivalent of the 4 blocks. And now going through here, all of these given and this is just, they can be anything. I could change that to when if I wanted to. That's just for to sort of see the sequence. But so, for example, here, given the following organizations exist, if I can do Command B to get myself to the definition. What that does, we have a series of steps. Each of these lines here is called a step, and it has this little chunk of English after the head component here. And they all correspond to steps which we've got in step files. And the steps here, they have to say given there or whatever, that's irrelevant. The critical thing is, does it match with regular expression? I don't know if you remember regular expressions before, but so we can have, specify start of the line, end of the line there. In these cases, it's just, okay, that's an exact match for the word here, and then the nice cucumber will basically mean this is available in a big hash array for us, and so get the hash and then go through. I think it's these arrays or whatever, and just so it's just go there. And this is like just bits of Rails active record here. So behind the scenes, it's just going to create all of the organizations for us. But it does it in, seeing this is not so important. The critical thing is, these are the organizations that we need. It's try and make all that out. And then we've got, assume that these volunteers are registered, and then we go on. And if we go into, for example, the one that we were working on here, we've got some organizational volunteer invalid data. So we've got given I am signed as a charity worker relationship friendly. You can see we've got somewhere in there that, behind every of these lines, using the step definitions, we can cause some set of Ruby to be executed. And in many cases, it's going to be like this one. Behind the scenes, it's going to be doing visit. So it's just a bit of code bar. So there's a kind of a, it's
highlighting based on these, highlighting the text in the high level stuff based on definitions we've made. Use those, turn those into some sort of keyword.
Yes.
In the guts of the text.
And so we've got things like, for example, given I am signed in as a charity, this is similar, and we can say, and I should see title can't be blank. So this is like assuming that you filter, so if I submit an opportunity with title blank and description blank, that I should see title can't be blank, and we jump in there, and so these regular expressions can have capture groups. So there it's looking kind of complicated, but it's capturing that bit of text for this, and then it's doing. I mean, it's actually doing stuff that you're, like, it's kind of, some of the developers have kind of got clever and made it do like multiple things, but it's basically underlying here, it's just expect page to, which is the kind of capital R statements that you've seen before. It's just, Cucumber basically provides this framework for kind of extracting the stuff that you might have in RSpec, and you can use RSpec in the steps, so that everything that you do is at the high level is a description in an English language that it's a non-technical user could in principle understand. So if we look at this, we've got this one here. All owner creates a volunteer opportunity with valid data, given us another charity. I guess all of that talking, what I should be doing in the background. All of the this is, you can run spec with rate and it just makes sure the database is in the right state. Just keep that up in the background. Yeah, so I think we've got, I guess through the user interface. The user interface, you can't create a volunteer opportunity without having an organizational ID associated with it, I guess. Is that right? I'm kind of also tempted here to, let's see what we're doing on there. Let's kill that. Really there. That's busy doing all of our aspects, and I will go over here and do that and just do see which version of Ruby we're running. Yeah. Full bits. Even 5, 4, 5. Not 5. What's the RVM list? What's this one? See, I've got that set as by default, but I still end up with it going to 392. I don't understand it. RVM. Okay, right. There, let's make sure that comes in here. The background. Okay, yes. And so, there in the background, I guess I should check that we're using that with Ruby. We can just run in the background. Yeah. And if in our local system there, so that's the, that was the, so this is what it's going to look like. We've got this new map view with opportunities having this special heart shape, and all of the things mapped in. And we've got it set up so that it can have, this is on the location, the organization can have multiple opportunities popping up from individual places there. So we want to merge in with the work that Marion's done with the map and the changes that we've been making to make the show page for the individual things look more interesting. I was going to go over here and go to localhost 3000 and see what's going on there.
Are there like design related like tickets open or like?
Yes. I mean, you know, there's certainly, yeah. I mean, you can look through, you know, you can just search in here, and so anything you know that might be CSS. You know, we've got this idea of doing a full width map, adding costumes to the logo there, and this is all, you know, visible. I mean, there's, yeah. I mean, we've got various things that are kind of being worked on. Yeah, this one here. I don't know what edit page but yeah, this one here actually, Marion is working. We've got an issue for. Look out. I created a database user. I haven't got that admin thing. Let me go and have a look at the. So we go over here and we can just do Rails console. I've got some dummy users who are working with. We do have some crates there.
My other stands we've done in all that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, sharp.
Okay.
8,000 emails.
Yeah, that's pretty busy. Oh, it's I don't have any users in there. Huh. That's funny. Okay, so I guess I have to I did this last time. Anyway, so we've got Devise on here that you guys are familiar with. And so I'll just go through the sign-up process there to make a user associated with that. It's very, very strange.
Is it because you know switched
Versions of Ruby
or repo rather?
Well,
I mean, branch. No, that wouldn't change it.
no. See that because it's all we've got the database behind it, so the database should just maintain. Like on Friday, I did some stuff in there. It should be. I've still got the Harrow community thing in there. Anyway, so I'll go in here and do my usual. Like that. So we've had this adjusted for that pop-up, and then it won't send an email because we're in there locally. Yeah, all of our tests are passing, which is great. And if we can do is, so we've got it set up. Remember, with the Rails Devise, we have all these different options that we can choose, and so we've got it being set up being confirmable, so that it will send an email out with a link that you click on in order to validate your user if you really actually have that email account. So now if I do user first, like so, we've got, I ran the seed operation. That's very strange. It's very strange. Anyway, it seems I've lost the data. Can I put the data? Possibly. So here, if I set the confirmed at to be equal to now, be able to log in with that user, like so. And if I make, it feels like it's gone to a completely different thing here. I can set the, I can also go for this user, I can set the organization and do, and then make that into our organization. Right. Do we have any information in there? And do we have, oops. There we go. Right. So we do have a single thing that's there. So that should give me. Okay, this one. And if we go and get that first volunteer op, so it will be equals find. Let's get first. And B, and it has organization ID 1, and I now own that organization. So this should be giving me the ability to edit that organization, which it's not, which I am disturbed by. There is a thing that we need to, there's a couple of things to activate. So we've got these, so I was just asking David about this in local support the other day. We need a better seed operation for getting these things. David, I'm just talking about the wiki.
A seed operation is?
So you can have like DB seed, which will sort of set up and insert a number of basic things that you need into the system to get you started.
Is that messing with you if I change my screen?
It won't if you. I guess if you do that, it changes my screen. If you want to change your screen, you just click outside, and then you can get that there.
Sorry, you think?
Yeah, so the seed will set up a series of data that you need to get things going. And I just did this all on Friday, and I don't know why it disappeared. I'm a bit suspicious of these databases. And so there's a simple. David had been working on putting this into a simple seed. Feature flag, local support. Oh, there we go. This is the thing. I want to. Can I jump to that? Show me that. Why are you taking me there? It's the archive. Oh goodness me. Okay, right. It's yes. Here we go. I want this to be. So we've got these feature flags that allow us to. And you don't like. Oh, I need to get through there. Okay. Right. That's volunteer ops list, and then volunteer ops create. Yes. Okay. Oh, I've done it twice with it. Oh, jeepers. F. What do I want to say? F. F. Say. Okay. All my features should be added now. Right. So at least we can see volunteers here. We can see the list of volunteers, and then we can go in here. I'm logged in this person, but I'm not getting either what's supposed to be happening, which is not happening at the moment. If you go and look at the view for the volunteer ops, is app models views volunteer ops on the show page. Is that oh no, what's it? Okay, maybe we don't have the ability to edit. We only have the ability to create. Right. Okay, so that's a function that we don't have in the system yet. So we do have I can. So this is the page where I can do the creation. So for example, if I do create a volunteer opportunity, this is now the validations are causing this to stop there. So sorry for that long aside there as I busy work my way through the system. Is I was trying to think of, rather than just going straight for a model spec, I was trying to think of like what's the top level test for this validation that we want the organization to be associated with a sort of the volunteer opportunity to be associated with an organization. But if we look through the creation process for that, let's go to, so that's the show page. You guys standard be familiar with these views and controller there, so but if we look at volunteer ops controller, when we do we get the new page, and you get the that will display the form, and then we'll come in here and it will do basically, yeah, it comes in and okay, yeah. So I think that actually, so I've worked it out. The top level test associated with it would be if a user who was not associated with an organization tried to create this thing, they would see an error, which is what we're not testing for at the moment. So what we would do here is we've got this, only organizers can create volunteer opportunities, and at the moment what we're doing is we're not showing them the link to the create volunteer button, but I don't think we're protecting the ability of them actually to do it. So for example, we see here, we've got before filter authorize, which is we're checking whether the user is logged in or not, but we're not checking whether the person is actually an organization owner. And so potentially, at the moment, there's a little sort of security hole here in that we could pass around, someone could pass to someone else this link or just sort of guess it. And if they weren't associated with an organization, it would end up inserting it into the system, and then later on it could cause errors. So that's the high-level feature that we're working on here. So what we would want to go in here is say something like, there we go, all owners, yeah, signed in users. We could do something like this. So, I mean, we could at the top level be blocking. So we sign in users who don't own an org, cannot create volunteer opportunities. The second one is, given I'm signed in to charity worker and I visit the show page. See, what we could do here is, given, since you guys aren't familiar, I'll create this level. So what I'm going to do is like, sign in users who don't own the org cannot create volunteer opportunities on the slide. Given I am signed in as a charity worker related to this one, where did I just copy that from? Signed in users, all right, so shy. And so shy here, yeah, no, actually, right. I think here, actually, rather than just being signed in as a charity worker is related to something, what have we got here? We got what we need to find is a user here who's signed in but not associated with an organization. So it's set up here. So we've got these two organizations. Okay. So it seems like that what we need is, you know, this is going to be, and then we'll just have that. Okay, I can do this. Okay. So what we'll have is we'll just have.
How do you justify that? Sorry.
I did Alt and Command and L, and it automatically justifies the inside page.
Ruby mine?
It is, yeah. It I like Ruby mine.
Okay, eventually.
Yeah.
Ruby mine, that is.
So given as I think here, given I am, I wonder if there's an alternate thing I want to. Given I am signed in as a, I shouldn't be signed in as a non-admin. Yeah, let me see what that one does. Signed in as a non-admin. Find by admin. It's just going to find somebody who's not an admin, which is not. I think it's a bit of a hack, but it might work if I just snap that up there, and that will then be the first non-admin that it finds, and it's not associated with it. We'll see. And I visit the new volunteer opportunity, and I submit. Then it should be. So then we can see. Then I should see a create new volunteer opportunity. Let's do that, and then I guess we could with title test organization. Not sure that this is the ideal test, but we might go back and change it in a minute. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of constructing a way through the app to see that the for a high level cause a problem. And so hopefully this test should fail, and that will serve as our high level feature test for this. And that does fail, yes. So it's whether we just create a new volunteer in. But I think that's looking like the wrong kind of failure. I visit the new volunteer opportunity page. Oh, and it is getting, all right, it's also getting, you must be signed in as an organization owner to perform this action. So it looks like it is preventing us from actually getting there. So that's good on its part. But I'm not sure actually how it's blocking it, because no worries. I'm not sure how that is even being enforced. So I'm tempted to do finding path in here. Where in our code? Where on earth? Type occurrences, app controller, volunteer ops controller, flash error all. Okay. Ah, okay, right. And there was, I thought it was, okay, right. So we're already checking that org owners just can't do that. So I think that this is an interesting situation. There is no top level test corresponding to this, but I think we maybe this is a situation where we don't have the top level test. I guess this is the person trying to go there on the slide. So actually we have now, if we now go back in the test and we run the test. So that's what we would actually expect. They shouldn't, if they go there and they try and form that on that action. So it seems like from the top level in for the user, at the moment there's no way that you can actually end up creating a volunteer op that wouldn't have an organization ID, because you just can't get there and you kind of grab it automatically from the user. But I think still sensibly, because we've got ourselves into trouble trying to create this thing, I think we should still have, and maybe now, Roy, I don't know if you want to, sorry that it's been, I always want to get you guys typing as quickly as possible. And but yeah, so I think we should have, for due process, as it were, we need a test here that makes sure that we can't have, we can't create a volunteer op that doesn't have a associated organization. Right. So then we need.
So without is that right? It mustn't be created one.
I think this is the volunteer opportunity, so I think we can just go with all that. That's fine. Like that. Yeah. So we need to create. You could copy like the pattern above.
Right.
I think so. We could have like a volunteer op and create one like explicitly where organization is nil.
Sorry, run that by me again, Sam.
Well, I was going to say, rather than copying, well, I guess you get. I was thinking you might want to get practice typing. This one. In this case, for this one, just I think practice typing.
Okay.
Go like type out from above. So V equals volunteer op. So we're going to create. So the thing that we've done in the previous two is we've kind of like we're passing in specifically the thing that we care about. So this one, we don't really quite care about setting the description as nil. We want to set the organization as nil.
Sure.
And description and title in the previous one were both strings. So in this case, rather than it being an string, I think would be nil. Okay. We could try like that.
Do I need to put that in?
And I think it doesn't need to be in quotes. And I think you might have to have organization with a Z.
Oh, okay.
Although we should be fact, but they actually complained about that in the interface because a lot of the American developers would normally actually put them with the organization, and then they said we don't like this American stuff. So in the interface it also says organization with an S underneath the harvest. Really, we should refactor it. Anyway, so now that's like we're basically setting up something that we're expecting to be invalid. So if we would then expect V
yeah,
to have one.
Is it singular?
I think it is singular. I guess the one in the thing above, I should switch them to singular. So I think it's I think it'd still be one error and it'd be underscore on. I think that the error on, errors on, they've just defined both of them, and you can use whichever one you feel. And so I think so. What should Nikolai? What should help out your pair partner? What do you think that the by talking to people or by typing? Seems like a reasonable offer. And so one of the here in RubyMine, what you can do is you can control click like this, and then we can run precisely that test to see if that test passes or fails. And I know I've been talking about. Does the motivation for why we're writing this test make sense?
define motivation in this?
Well, I mean, like you might say, I'm writing this test because I want to learn aspect better. Like in the context of the customer, like and the volunteer epic. Is it clear why?
Yeah.
Why we're doing this and why this helps meet the customer needs? Yeah. Good show. And so we've now got an expected failure, and that looks about. It could be the right kind of failure. So we've got there. So now I think we have one example, one failure.
Yeah, but it's one error out of organization.
Yes.
Zero.
No, right. So we've not got the validation error that we were hoping for,
right.
But that's the state that we want to be in at this point, which is that we've written our model spec, and so now we want to move over to our app. And do you want to dive in there, Nikolai?
This is where I try out.
Shall I just make? I'll reduce the text size so we can see it.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so. This is a volunteer. I dare say.
I think it might just work. It might just work. Let's see. Let's go for it. I mean, I don't need to distract you.
No, it's okay.
I think you're on right track.
I'm at least doubting myself a little. I may still return to that because there are descriptions and other things. Attribute accessible.
So attribute accessible, which you might not have accounted for, is the same thing as permit. It's another way of and in fact, I think the permit is new in Rails 4, so this is Rails 3. So here we're using attribute accessible to say that you're allowed to have a form submission where you set these values.
Where you set these values.
You remember what permit does in that we're describing which of the properties of the class can be set using the create operation, and so rather than permit if we look at the controller associated with this is the controller, and we look at the point where we do here like this volunteer ops new params volunteer ops, rather than having in here dot permit. Yeah, we're just doing that, and then when it does this save, it'll use attribute accessible to check whether that some sneaky user is trying to set the promotion code or something or whatever.
Right.
So I think for the purposes of this the spec, which I can take back to over here, for the purposes of the spec, I think we can just ignore that line. It's basically these two is where the action is going on.
Well, I know where the difference is. It's
yes. No, we'll go for it. I think your first intuition is probably the right one. I only say probably because it's been a while since I used validations in combination with these relationships. So I think the best test here is to kick off the test and see what happens. The interesting thing here is that it's a little bit in my mind about the way in which belongs to interacts with validates. In that we've got attribute accessible here with of course organization ID, and I wonder if the validate is expecting, rather than talking about the organization, it should be fixating on the organization ID.
I'm not used in this situation because I don't understand what I typed out.
Oh, okay.
It's basically typing it like monkey fashion.
Okay. Okay.
So
Nikolai can go win because he's got it to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, let's work out what it is that you typed and why we typed it, because I certainly don't want to drag you kicking and screaming on without it really working. So let's talk. Shall I talk through that, or do you
please do? Yeah.
Or do you want to talk through?
Well, I can try. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
We've got an instance of a class here.
Yes.
Which has pass an argument, which is that setting organization to nil, because there's no organization.
Yeah, I mean what it is, if we go and do that if we take this as we're on Rails console here, right, I can run exactly this line, right, and that will, it's interesting actually, it may be strangely interesting, but so if we just do this by itself, yeah, then what happens is we get a kind of a blank object that has no values in it. So if we do something like this, like that, it'll, whatever we pass in there that sort of sets up a particular kind of object
Right.
with certain things. But when we do the new, it will create the Ruby object, but it won't save it through to the database.
Okay.
So it kind of it waits there until such time to save it. However, in this case, I think if we try and save it, it's going to we get that rollback because we've said that it must have a title and a description and an organization ID. And if we now look at the errors, we can see that it actually has a list of the error messages, particularly related to that.
Let's see.
Can I quickly ask, going back to this?
Yes, absolutely.
If every time we're doing volunteer off.new and every single value is set to null regardless,
Yes.
is this necessary?
It's not. For the purposes of the test,
Yes.
this is emphasizing that we're checking that situation where the organization is nil.
Only the organization. So it doesn't check for the fact that if you had other fields empty, that.
Why is sorry?
Go on.
First, I was pretty much done.
Why isn't organization part of the object as a standard? I mean, which is effectively what Nikolai just asked, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me because you're effectively that's a key value pair that you're assigning to the object, right? It's a property assigned to the object. But if that's something that's important as an integral part of the object,
well, in this case, we are like it's all about what we're testing. So here, well, let's do this one, right?
Okay.
So in this case, we're starting off with, it must have a description. Actually, when we started writing these tests on Friday with Vidas, they were originally nil, right? And we were just checking that it didn't have a nil description. It moved on to be this because we wanted to check that both it's not nil and it's not an empty string.
Right.
So here, what we're doing here is, it makes more sense here because it's an empty string. What we're doing here is we're saying we're going to create a volunteer op new, right? And the new thing here takes a hash, a key value pair that would allow us to create the object. We happen to have put an organization in nil here just to emphasize it's not actually necessary, particularly because all of the different values of this project, if we look at, when we did v volunteer new there, all of them are nil anyway.
Right.
In their undifferentiated state, we've created a Ruby object with these things ready to have stuff added to them. In this case, we're just adding this here to emphasize that in this test, we're going to be checking that we really, really can't save an object that has a nil organization.
Right.
So we're okay with that line?
Yeah, I think so. And also the syntax of an error on organization. I don't recall playing with this, but that's
okay.
I'm not saying that we haven't done it in the course. I'm just saying that I haven't.
Well, when we did the validations thing, this was how I
Was
did.
this to do with device?
No. Well, if we look at, if we go and open recent and go and find. We can look at the stuff that we just did before. If we go to documents, and we go to makers, and we go to Sam, and we go into Yelp. Is it going on Yelp March? I think I'm looking for Yelp Make 2. So I think that was when we did, and then I can do subtle here. Oops. I've just gone for subtle and not on subtle dot, which I want to do. If we look in there, when we look at the app and the models and spec, models and restaurant spec. Here we go. So this is what I did last week when we went through validations.
Yeah, I didn't get this far.
Okay. Well, my apologies.
No, it's not your fault.
Yeah. No, I was sort of assuming that you didn't have a passing familiarity with these ones. But, we go through now. But basically, so I guess, do you feel comfortable what validations are, period?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for example, if you have a form, you put an email address in, but it's not got an S in it or something.
Right, and so what we've looked at, I think before, maybe we were looking at before, was like on the client side, the JavaScript or the jQuery might check for us, have you got the right things in there or not, and that would do client-side checking. This is now on the server side, so with this validates command, we can basically make statements about what must be the case for certain fields being present or properties that they have. But Nikolai, do you recall this from the? You do. Okay, all right. So that's probably why you were able to make it pass. But so what we're doing here with this particular syntax here is we're saying we're expecting this as a result. Like, even though we haven't tried to save it, the validations are already kind of there and in place, and we're basically saying that a volunteer opportunity that has been created within an organization, we're going to expect it to have one of these kind of error messages. So you see here, like it's got like if we call errors on the model, we can then see, for example, here that it's got messages about description, and so that using that information, the test can check: do we actually have an error on organization?
And description is obviously coming from here. Like this is the previous thing that you did provide us, right?
Yeah, I mean, we previously wrote these tests to check that our volunteer opportunity had. It's basically checking that the validations are working in the way that we expect. However, at the risk of muddying the water, I've noticed that the problem actually, so over here, was that by setting organization, it said we can't assign that protected attribute. So this is that permissions, the permit thing coming in here. And so I think actually, in order for this to really be doing what we want, well, either we add organization to this list of attribute accessible things, or I think possibly more sensibly, we do this. And so that the error should be on organization ID, like that. If that makes sense. And then so maybe we can see if that fails in that regard. Although, of course, like here, I mean, I think actually maybe I don't know if it'll have the error on organization ID as well. Well, here, see, we've got the requirement on organization. The funny thing is that it belongs to. Have you seen the belongs to thing before?
Yes, that like has many and belongs to those. I mean, I looked at those yesterday, but there are ways of making sure that our database tables are related correctly.
Yes. Well, this is assuming that we have database tables that are related to each other. This will allow us to get an easy access to those things. So if I have a volunteer, if I have a reference to a volunteer, then I can do something like this. Yeah, like that. And I can reference it, and I just get the object back. In this case, it's not going to do it because I haven't said it or whatever. But it basically the belongs to all the
ID, then that should come back.
Oh, well, I ID it's nil. Oh. If I do build like that, if I do, what I can do is I can set. And then if I do the organization, it'll come back with that organization. So what this belongs to does is it basically means what it's basically doing is it's making like in some accessor might do in the background is it basically makes a little method available on this volunteer class so that we can call, rather than just being able to find out the ID of the person that we're related to, that the organization will then do the necessary kind of SQL call and then returns, the actual organization object, and so that's what comes back here.
Right.
So that's that's really sort of handy for sort of talking about those sorts of things. And I guess here I'm like, I wonder what the thing is with this organization ID there, or this. Basically, it's going to be nil in either case. Organization is sort of nil by default, although we can't explicitly set it there. I'm wondering if it's better to have the error on organization ID and organization. You see what I'm saying? It's like we can it seems like it's perfectly happy. Like it does find if we just have it around like this. I mean, the alternative is what does I do? And then if we do this, presumably that would pass. And I don't know that one or other is one is better than the other. I mean, this distinction between the two makes sense.
Distinction between
organization and organization ID. Like we currently with this model.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can refer to both the organization and the organization ID.
Sure.
Like this, right?
Presumably the organization will be like a string or something, whereas the ID is going to be the number.
Right. So the organization ID itself is just a number, right, which refers to the key in another table, in the organization's table. The organization itself, when I did the organization there, we can see in the background it ran a SQL statement to grab all the data of that organization from the database, and then it returned like a full Ruby object there that has all that information about that organization in it. So that's the difference between these two things. This one, organization there, that relies completely upon having this organization ID, right, or something that provides the ID to the links to another table. Would it be helpful to look at the database table?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Get another one of these and do this equal. Hold on, can I do -d? No. We call local support.
That's just such a terrible word.
L. Just out of interest, I wonder if anybody is still with us out there. Is Mikhail still there? Yeah. Hey, Mikhail. Hope you're following along. I'll have fun.
Hello.
Hello, Mikhail. You all right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it all making sense to you as well?
Sorry,
Is it making sense to you as well?
Yes, of course. It's interesting to consider how you work and. Yes.
Well, do feel free to ask questions if you're, something you're not following.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we've got all our different databases. Oh, it's called LS development. So there we go. So anyway, so let's collect to LS development. Somebody changed the name of it. And I can't spell.
Not to digress, but do you not have pairing slots since it's a Mindu?
I don't have any pairing slots today.
I was just worrying about running over people's time.
No. I mean, I kind of, and I've sort of said to people in the thing, like, if there's anything, if you need us, and no one's screaming that they need us, so yeah. I mean, I'll need some tea in a minute. But anyway. Anyway, so here we are. Yes. So let's do. If we start. So basically, we have in organizations, we have a single entity at the moment, which has the ID 1. If we do select star from volunteer ops like this, we can see that it's a bit difficult to. Is there a better? I can actually look at. Is there a better? What's the best option for pSQL? Alternate output font for pSQL. I'm sure. Oh, there we go. Let's do that. Okay, that's much easier, isn't it? So here's our volunteer ops at the moment, and we can see that the volunteer ops, consists in the database consists of these things, and it's got its own ID, which happens to be 1, and it's also got organization _ ID. Right. And so if we're with a volunteer op and we say, we go volunteer. If I guess it's over here, let me grab a real volunteer op from the database. So I can go v equals volunteer. And so, we can go v.id 1 in the database. We can do v.title, right? That's all being pulled directly out of the database. The 1, the title, and so on. Organization ID there. In fact, when we did this first there, it queried the database. It got back exactly this data as if we'd done select star from volunteer ops, and it stored that now in a Ruby object that we're interrogating in like an IRB session, right? But so if I do the v.organization, what it's going to do, like that, is actually it generates an additional SQL query, because at the moment the v by itself only has the organization ID, but so then it's going to do this kind of check to say, can I go and find from the organizations table where the organization's ID is equal to 1? So if we go and look, we could actually run that query on the database, like so. And we put it, there we go, right. So that brings back this organization, which has some missing data, but whatever. We basically see it went and grabbed that thing there. We've lost more data than that. There's nil and whatever. But so basically, it's done a lookup on this foreign key from the volunteer ops table to try and find from the organizations table the matching one there. And then it's returned a new object which has been constructed from the data from this other table.
What relationship are those two tables to one another?
So we would say that organization has many volunteer ops, and volunteer op belongs to organization. So it's just one to many. Right. So a volunteer opportunity will only have one organization associated with it, but each organization may have many volunteer opportunities, and that's that sort of way round. If you see that the foreign key is on a particular table, that tells you that this is the one, and then this other one is the many.
You run that by me again?
So we've got the organization ID here is on the volunteer ops, right? So if you think about it, each volunteer op, this could be 1 or 5 or 7 or 9 or whatever. There can only be one organization ID for each. Like if this is like it's a spreadsheet, right? And you've got a separate entry in each one. So we've got first volunteer op, and its organization ID happens to be 1. The next volunteer op, and its organization ID happens to be 3, and so on and so forth.
So you've got about foreign keys in there.
Yeah.
Foreign keys.
Let's say that Sega may Shinobi, Sonic, and Outrun. All of the games would have Sega's ID in their tables. Yes, the Sega ID being the foreign key. So in the same way, so like if Sega would be the organization, and this would be the game console. So the game console would belong to the manufacturer or the console manufacturer, and so we would expect to have the foreign key for the manufacturer in the table for the thing that it belongs to. So when you see a foreign key in a particular table, that tells you that that table is going to be the one of a one-to-many relationship. And it could conceivably be a one-to-one, but anyway. But if the other thing doesn't have the matching for, like this doesn't have a volunteer op ID in it, then this means it's one-to-many.
Yeah.
Well played, Nathan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Sorry.
No, that's his problem.
Yeah. Okay, I'll shut up.
No,
No,
I completely derailed you. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to make sure. So
This is wrong. Sorry.
Sure.
No. It's nothing related.
The organization ID key is in the volunteer table. Volunteer table will be technically the child in that relationship.
This is a kind of composition relationship. So this is, remember, this is inheritance versus composition.
Yeah, I was following a Linda tutorial yesterday, and it's like banging about children tables and whatnot, so that's confusing.
Okay, yeah, I think that's possibly because you could have child and parent relationships in a database, but it wouldn't be done like this. So I think that's I would be a bit cautious of Linda. They're a bit shovelware, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Fine.
But yeah. So if we come back, that was all about the difference here between whether we should be validating. So we can either, it seems like we can go either way around. We can validate and we can say that they must have an organization ID, or we can validate and say that it must have an organization. The organization is like a helper method that's been created by having the belongs to there, that will go and get the organization that's specific to that matches that organization ID. So in order to, it must have an organization in there. Yeah, I mean, I guess it feels to me like that doesn't quite make sense because the attribute accessible will not allow us to specify that in that way, and so that even though this is just sort of a, I think I'm tempted to leave it like this, just for the moment, so it's not like concealing an error in the background. And what we should sensibly do is then run all of we'll just run all the tests for that. But so, go.
No, it's not fully formulated question. I don't really want to ask it.
Okay.
Can you have an organization without an organization ID?
Not really, no, because at least you could have an object in a state where both the organization and the volunteer opportunity had been created but not yet set, or had been instantiated but had not yet been saved to the database, and only at the point when you save to the database that they get IDs given to them. But yeah, here, yeah, I mean I think really what this is designed to prevent is what I was doing the other day. Like, so if we now drop out of here, have it with these changes, actually on there. But what the problem was that I was creating these guys on the command line, and I was creating them without organization IDs. And so now, if we do like something like V do title and then now it will fail because it doesn't have an organization ID. Whereas when I was doing it the other day and I was saving it, because we didn't have that validation in place that Nikolai was added for us, it was working, and then I was going and looking at pages in the system and it was blowing up. So yeah, so I mean, that's actually because, you know, at the top level there was already more serious security in place than I imagined. We don't actually really need to do any more. We fixed the one issue that we addressed, and actually it's so small, I'm thinking that I could put it into the previous branch, that pull request, and merge it in, and then a little bit of code that you guys will go out into production helping the folks.
Nothing to do with me.
You were typing the keyboard, man.
Yeah.
There was, you know.
You guided me with that test. If it wasn't for that test, Roy, I wouldn't have written organization, and Sam wouldn't have corrected both of those things. Okay.
Well, and we explore alternatives. I mean, I may be corrected further that you know, Alex might come in and say, actually, it's better practice to do the validation on the organization than it is to the organization ID. But we'll see. We all potentially stand good. But I mean, I think we've been able to have a very interesting discussion there about the tables that are underlying these things and what's going on. I mean, I often forget how many moving parts there are in Rails and all the different things going on because I've been using it for so long. But yeah, is your brow slightly furrowing there?
Yeah, I'm quite concerned, to be honest.
About?
I'm putting a lot of time into this, and I'm just, you know, I don't seem to be getting it. So I'm slightly worried.
Well, the words are at least sticking, and you know what they are, the words. About, you know, it came about like the other week. My friend who sort of nudged me to go on this course so I could help him with his
startup or
whatever. He beforehand, when I was trying to jump into conversations with him about anything code or programming related, he would correct me every single time I'd mentioned something.
Right. Because
I was quite foreign to these concepts. And 3 weeks ago possibly, he's walking down the road with me having a full-on conversation about these things. And I'm grasping more than I ever thought I knew. And it's simply, I guess that's purely conversational, and sitting down and being able to do this is another thing entirely. But you are aware of the terminology, and regardless of whether or not that information is applicable.
Yeah.
It is definitely there.
I appreciate what you're saying, but like I'm going through this stuff and I understand it. I go through the tutorials, I understand it all. I sit in the discussions, I understand it. But to apply it, and it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Yep.
And it's, I mean, like in terms of this, like I hadn't done the part that pretty much hinged on this. So
Yeah.
like, it's so you know, in a lot of ways, and I probably, rather than just blindly writing a test, you know, being told what to do, I probably should have said I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, because effectively it would have been a less frustrating.
We could have, yeah.
But
we could
at the same time, I just more and more I feel like when I think I'm getting it, then I realise I'm in fuck all. And it's like, what I don't want to do is come out here with some sort of, it's like thinking that you're a good boxer and you have a real fight and you get your ass handed to you horribly and so bad that you like, I'm never ever doing that again.
I would argue that that is a bar setter.
Right.
In the sense that you're still versed in and have the motivation to box, and you lost a fight. I get the analogy. Maybe I'm breaking it down a little too much.
A little, because it's it's just kind of like I'm putting so much time into this. Like I put more time into this than most people on this course.
Yeah.
But I'm having such a hard time concentrating, and I'm researching like meditation and things like to help me concentrate as well. And it's just like I constantly feel like I've got like you switch minutes and you've got the repeller pulse going on, and it's like I'm trying to concentrate and I'm just kind of zipping off stuff, and it's like every day it's exhausting. But I'm still there until from the second I wake up until I go to sleep late. And I kind of feel like maybe like I don't know.
You're not alone in that.
And I really need to get a job the second I leave here.
Well, and I think what we generally see is that the people who have a bit of leeway, that they've got a bit of money to live on, for like a month after the course, generally just are more relaxed through the final bit. If you've got to find a job immediately after you leave, that's a bit of a difficult situation to be in.
And I just, and when you come here and you tell people that, and they're like, it's a learning skill, I can pick it up, blah, blah, blah. And I know I can learn it. I know that. But like my learning style is that like I have to, like I go through my notebook and I have to write down the steps. And not because, I could just go through it parrot style, but then I don't want to be in situations like this where I'm like, okay, well, what's the relationship between these things? And be able to picture it in my head because I've learned those steps, not just because it's probably And, it's not the course fault. I'm not saying that. I'm just starting to get very, very worried about my level of competency, which quite frankly feels pretty shabby.
I feel like you're covering. I think like you're doing pretty well. I think like most people are doing pretty well, and I think that it's a tendency for everyone to focus on the negative things rather than on how far they've come. But I've
come massively far.
Right.
I'm quite
positive. You're pleased with that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, I'm already because I've had a stab at trying to do this stuff before I came to the course, and I'm already so didn't continue already. But now I'm kind of doing myself the service now. I had another 12 weeks, and I didn't have to find a job. I would be laughing because like the amount I've picked up already, considering my learning style and how difficult I found it beforehand.
Yeah, I think this is unfortunate in that. Yeah, I should have double checked that you were feeling comfortable with the validations. Like I think for Vidas on Friday, and then even for yourself, Nikolai, because you both kind of done the validations and. That was less frustrating an experience than it was for you there. But this is hardcore, right? This is like a large legacy app with lots of existing functionality. It's deployed in production and so on. I mean, I think I was just going to go back to the thing that we might talk about there, which is the walkthroughs. The thing that I find is like I don't know if you're there or not. Can you treat the like the device thing and the validation things like cutters, and can you replicate them from memory? Is that something that you can do? Can you do? Is that what you've been doing? Like you've been, I mean, you've been building some Rails apps, and you've been redoing it from scratch. But are you? Where are you up to in that process of like building little Rails apps? Is it?
Well, I mean, the Yelp thing is the thing that I've been working on. Right.
And so you built it a number of times now.
Well, when we say built, I've started it a number of times.
Okay.
And yesterday, when I finished as far as I've got on it, I was just getting to the point where we were doing the ratings. And I've done like the ratings as a select drop down. And I'm just about to go into doing the stars thing.
Right.
So I'm not exactly, up to it yet. Like I'm not.
You're not feeling completely comfortable with Rails yet.
Well, yes and no, because at the same time, like what I have done, I've done really thoroughly.
Yeah.
And so, and I see, like, I understand how it works. I understand the benefits of it, and I know that the more time I spend with it, like I'm not worried about learning it. It's just that I don't have the time to keep up at the speed
at the pace that it's going. Yeah. No,
and the thing is, I get to points where I'm like, well, I kind of need a bit longer than this, but at the same time, if I ignore this week's work and carry on with last week's work, I'm going to miss large chunks of the course. Yeah. So I don't know quite what to.
We're just wrapping up. I sympathise with the frustration that it's like it's. I mean, and I think what I noticed a number of people doing are basically they're kind of going off and just doing their own thing at the moment because it's very difficult to keep up with everything at the pace that it's going, and you kind of like even if you're really on top of it, you just have like you kind of blink for half a day, and you had I was just distracted. I was talking to him, and then bang, like I didn't do the thing. The next bit because like what Alex and I are doing is we're building functionality on top of each other. All the way through Yelp and all the way through Instagram, so it's brutal. It's brutal.
I mean, like I'm glad that I was in this sort of learning environment rather than something that's more like classroom based, such as like general assembly seems to be, for example, because that'll be so easy. You come out there and have all these great notes and everything. I think you know it,
right?
And then you
not
actually
be able to make anything.
Exactly, because like I don't, I'm just fucking terrified because I've got to have a job. I'm in so much trouble. Like if I don't get a job immediately, and I feel so incompetent. And it's
I would say that if you can't that's in some ways that is not helping you. Like it's almost
of course it's not psychological pressure.
Psychologically, if there's some way that you can basically say, look, my plan for dealing with a job starts the day after Makers happens, and that you kind of deal with that then. Like you'll be in that situation, that's fine. If there's some way that you can put off thinking about it. I know I was talking to Vishal, who's a previous Makers graduate, and he's got like a sort of a potential job offer, and but with a large company, and they're like it hasn't really come. They were sort of saying, oh yeah, it's positive, it's all going to go, and then they'd be saying like. And then they keep on delaying. I'm not sure what's going on. Is that surprising or anything? And I'm saying that sounds pretty normal for big companies. To me, that's what happens. And he's trying to work out like, how often should I email these people and phone these people? What should I be doing? And one of the things I was saying to him was like, look, and we talked about when he emailed the phone. I said, look, make a plan that on Tuesday morning tomorrow, 9:05, if whatever's 5 minutes after their office opens, that you phone that person that you think you need to speak to, and then you're going to, if you don't get through to your send an email, and until that, like, make the plan, and at that point, but don't try and like say, okay, I've now made the plan. The plan is written down. The plan is there. I don't need to spend the rest of the day and the afternoon and the evening agonizing about is it going to happen? Will I get this job or something like or whatever. Do you know what I mean? If you can somehow make a plan that puts off and says, yeah, all right, this is a reasonable plan moving forward over the next day, week, 2 weeks, and I will then start doing that thing on that day. I don't know, potentially could that help you ease the pressure on yourself?
Maybe, to be honest, you know what's worrying me more is like I know I've got to catch up on stuff. I've got like a backlog of stuff I need to go through and make sure I'm comfortable with.
Technology-wise.
Yeah. And now I'm in a situation where like I kind of wanted to come here so that like when you're at home and you're trying to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like no one. It's really hard to find something that says right, learn from online, then learn this, learn this, learn that, and that structure is really helpful because like okay, now I'm getting the ingredients for my career as a developer. Yes. But now I'm at the situation where I'm like, there are so many holes I need to go back and fill in. Yeah. Like I'm like, what's the most important? Now I'm getting back to that beginner stage of like where I'm like, you know, I have no idea right now until I do things like this and think, shit, I know nothing. Like, you know, where do I go? And it's just like the worst thing about it, like this. I'm sure everyone feels stupid on this course at some point, but there aren't many people that spend as much time on it visibly as I do, and I feel like in the bottom percentile of the class, and then I feel like, but I'm putting all this time into that makes me even dumber, you know? Sure. Like, and it's like, I know that my effective time in front of a computer versus my actual time sat in front of it is minuscule because my concentration is shot. I know, like, when I step back and think, okay, but how, you know, if I'm looking at it for an hour, how much of it am I really concentrating? Probably about 5 minutes out of an hour. You know, like, my concentration is awful. And I don't equate that to intelligence. But at the same time, it's just a little bit hard to sort of be around everybody and be like, you know.
Sure. I mean, there are other people I know who I speak to who also, for example, well, I guess there are other people that I do speak to who do put in, like, you know, they do like another, like 12, like they do 12 hours coding on Saturday and 12 hours coding on Sunday, and they're really, really going for it, and they also feel really, I mean, I don't know if it helps, but what you're describing sounds like what I think a lot of people are feeling.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. And that's, you know, but like, you know, James, for example, Ken, is, you know, I was having a chat with him the other day. Yeah. And I mean, you know, he's you know, kind of taking it at his own pace. You know, but he's saying to me, oh, I'm just going to go to Indonesia for a few weeks and sit in the house. And I'm like, and then he said, you should come with me, I've got this big library of books. I'm like, I would love nothing more. Yeah. Because that would sort me out to be able to sit in a house in any country.
Yeah, and just give them some space to kind of like, but so I guess is it that you need a job immediately because you've got to pay the rent.
I didn't pay the rent, but it was to start paying back the loan, a massive loan I took out to come here in the first place. Right. And I took out to pay my rent while I was here. Right.
But what's the? I mean, I think that even the luckiest maker doesn't get a job the day after graduation. No. It's going to take time. Yeah. What, I mean, do you not have any kind of financial framework that will see you for some periods?
I've got like a month's grace because they said that you know, it takes on average about 3 to 4 weeks to be hired by a company because you have to go through the technical.
Yeah, exactly.
And like my goal was to start applying before graduation, right? Because I was told that they had somebody on limited means before that had been in the same situation. That's what they did. And
who said that to you?
It was either Jordan or Steve. I spoke to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably true that maybe one or two people have managed to do that. It's definitely not a recipe for relaxation.
Of course not. No. But it was never going to be a recipe for relaxation. It was always going to be one of those situations where I could rot in my shitty job with no money, and you know, like you can't. Like I was living hand to mouth, and I, you know, the chances of me saving up enough cash to do this was just non-existent. So I either took a gamble and took like a huge and the annoying thing is that I asked Ruben about it, funding options. That's what I was told to do. Ruben was like, well, there might be a career post development, but I'm not sure they'll go for it. If we do, it'll probably take ages. So I went and got the loan, and then he said, why didn't you get the post development? And I'm like, because you said that you weren't even sure you were going to apply for it, because we didn't, got it immediately. I'm like, thanks. You know, but like that aside, like that, you know, I still made the choice to go in, that's fine. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I was heeding the advice of don't think about it until like week 9 at the earliest and start, you know, and just working. But like, it is week 9 unless I'm mistaken, and quite frankly, like
well, you're worried.
Terrified.
No, okay. But so I think the interesting thing is that, and that's a very valid feeling to have. I think what we need to do, if we can, is take that fear and put it in a box and focus on getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Because there's this sort of, you know, slippery slope where the fear prevents you from doing the things that take account of the issue.
Absolutely.
And so the question really is, what's the plan for, you know, the rest of the day, the next few days, that, you know, if you've got to climb a mountain, we've got to take it in a few steps. We've got to try. It doesn't really matter, you know, what our chances of getting to the summit are. It's like, what's the best plan that we can make given the current circumstances?
I couldn't agree more. And basically, I guess what I'm asking you and the other coaches is, what the hell do I need to do to, like, first? Like what I would kind of feel better if someone just sat down with me and asked me a bunch of questions, and then went, okay, you really need to understand that before you do anything else, because like I think I get this stuff, and then. Well,
I mean, but at least for me, you know, my answer to everything tends to be. But I think that the recipe would be is to just, like, I think what we did to here, you know, looking at the relations, looking at how it related to the relationships and so on, we exposed some things, and you know, I think we just need to keep on doing that rinse and repeat, and just keep on doing and hitting it and hitting it and hitting it again and again and again. And I think the crucial thing is having discussions about it rather than, you know, I think what it feels to me is, I don't remember, we did some of the things earlier on, and a lot of people said, you know, okay, I've been able to do the RSpec examples, but I have no idea how to create RSpec from scratch. So I think what I'm going to be looking to do going forward is just as many times as possible is go into like real world Rails apps and be building, like you had your aspect ratio. Well, let's start building that in a Rails app.
Okay.
And let's make it happen and find out where the holes are, and we will fill them in.
Okay. I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's wrap up there, and let's plan to do. And I think the thing is, yeah. I mean, I've obviously got not just you guys, but everybody. But let's try and hit. You know, get yourself up for things that you're excited to work on. That's the other thing. Like, you know, what are the business ideas that you're excited about? Let's try. You know, getting started on them almost without.
I'm not even here to start a business.
No. But
all I mean is, like, I would be much happier working with something I know is going to test all these things.
But yeah, absolutely. But the key thing is that you need some sort of domain model like we could construct artificial examples of domain models, which is sort of what we've got here with the Yelp and the Instagram and so on. Yeah. But that's not going to necessarily explore everything that you need. Yeah. And kind of in particular. There are a series of scaffold things. So I think definitely try and do as many of the scaffold things as you can. Try and get that done. The stuff that you can do independently or even in pairs if you can. Because I think the process of discussing it and discover the issues. But I think that we also need to look at existing projects. We need to build new things from scratch and expose those holes, and then we'll fill them in. But let's keep the dialogue going, and we'll get it sorted.
Right. Okay. There are 3 requirements I've noted down that people are looking for when it comes to employment. Being nice, check. As you are. I can verify that. 2, determine your fucking self. Just said that you've been putting in hours. You've been, on top of that, you've been friggin' teaching the other cohort. Some people grasp it way more. Or way less, and they're not doing that. And you, even though you're in this flux of I'm amazing, I'm terrible, you're out there teaching. And also, 3rd, you're going to make the effort on top of what you're already pushing yourself to do.
And I do appreciate that. But it's this time constraint. It's like I'm not worried about eventually getting to that point.
So what we ought to agree is say that we're going to not let the time constraint prevent us from using the current time that we have remaining as effectively as possible. So
I'm gonna go this way.
yeah.
Visit